Welcome to the Architect of Resilience podcast, where we explore the secrets of overcoming life's challenges and unlocking unstoppable strength through deep personal conversations and expert insights.
Welcome to another edition of the Architect of Resilience podcast. Today, I'm really excited to have on Dylan Gemelli. He's a pioneering voice in the world of biohacking, health optimization, and performance enhancement. So you can tell why I'm excited to have him on. From professional athlete to top-ranked podcaster and digital health influencer, Dylan has transformed personal adversity, including time served in prison, which we may get into a launchpad for global impact. He has become a trusted authority in hormone optimization, peptides, and longevity science. He uses a non-BS cutting approach that I think resonates with me and millions of others. And I say millions of others because he's got, 1.5 million followers on Instagram, a great YouTube, where he educates people, disrupts, empowers those seeking to reclaim their health outside the confines of conventional medicine. So whether speaking on the Olympia stage or guiding everyday people towards hormone balance, Dylan represents raw resilience, authentic leadership, and human optimization. So welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here, man. I'm looking forward to it, and thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, I just did an introduction of like tons of nice accolades and whatnot. If we stripped all that away, like your work, your accomplishments, how would you define yourself without that? Who is Dylan?
Yeah, it's something that's really changed over time, I think. And I know sometimes people will do that. Oh, people can't change. But I think as we grow, certain life experiences can change us. Certain feelings that we have, like in terms of mine, being closer with God has changed me. I would say now you would just find me like a humble family guy that just really enjoys sports, training, fitness, taking care of myself. And what I've really come to appreciate is surroundings, the earth, the things that are around us, that surround us, that I would have thought were so lame when I was a kid, and now I'm infatuated with. I just moved to Arizona, and I still can't even believe it's a reality because of where I'm situated and looking at my backyard at mountains, and I love the heat. I know a lot of people don't, and getting to do that every day and experience it. I'm just a simple, humble guy. I like nice cars. I like to play sports. I like to, if I ever get a minute, I'd love to play a video game. I don't have a lot of time, but I'm like the most chill, relaxed, easy to approach. Let's talk and rap about sports or fitness or finances, because I like real estate or anything of the sort, man. But I'm just like one of those people. My dad was always ultra cool with like everybody, got along with everybody, and I've kind of taken that on in my own form.
All right, appreciate that. The next, foundational kind of piece, just want to discover more about you, but specifically your views on what does resilience mean to you? What is strength? What is resilience? What does that mean to you?
I like to think that if you looked me up in a dictionary, that's what you would find, is resiliency. And resiliency is, in my view, the ability to overcome. And it is to not be fearful of things, but to take them head on, to address them. And I'm just a figure it out guy. And it took me right now to figure out how I'm able to do that. And that's more of like a Holy Spirit driven thing within me. But I think one of the things that I've always done is I'll ask myself, has anybody else ever done this? Something that I make sound like it's so difficult. And if the answer is yes, then it's, well, why can't I do it? And if the answer is no, it's, well, why can't I be the first one to do it? But instead of looking at a barrier, all I'm looking at is maybe the difficulty level and how am I going to overcome this, whether it's taking bits and pieces of what someone else has done or having to create one of my own or improving upon something else somebody did. But resiliency is that ability to bounce back, to never say no, to never give up, to not take no as an answer. And I don't believe in no. I don't believe in forgive me for saying this, but maybe not forgive me. I don't believe in mediocrity. I don't believe in complacency. I'm one of those guys that when I work sales, when I hit my quotas and my numbers, that's when I really go hard. You know, a lot of people take that, I did it, now I can relax. I'm the complete opposite. It's like, now you're really making your money, right? So if I achieve a goal, it's like, okay, celebrate for a day or a minute or an hour, and then let's move on to the next one because there's something else to do. I'm always hungry for more, and achievement, it makes me want to do more, to get more, to achieve more, and to be more. And, you know, sometimes when you do something and you do it good, you could do it better. And I'm not saying be hard on yourself, but you should always look for a lesson in anything that you do, whether good, bad, or indifferent. And you should always take something positive from it and use it as a tool for whatever comes next.
Nice. So, you know, we've talked a little bit about like who you are and resilience, which is these core components of, you know, really being in this space. So how did you, you know, arrive at being in the, you know, the health and wellness space? What did that journey look like?
So I started being an athlete when I was like 3 years old, man. You know, it's funny because when we were moving, I was out in my storage and I was digging through things because I was trying to clear some things out, but I was going through old things, and I still had my Hulk Hogan weights and posters that me and my dad had on the wall, and I still had like the little tape you listen to. And he started training me when I was 3, and we started. I played 4 sports in high school. I'm pretty sure that when we started, it was with baseball, but I fell in love with basketball. And so, you know, that's what I ended up doing. But I started fitness at a very, very, very young age. And honestly, I developed an eating disorder at like 11, 12 years old. And that's when I started studying nutrition. I'm not telling anybody to go get an eating disorder to start studying nutrition. I'm just on my journey. That's when I really started to learn about food labels and trying to dig in and learn and understand them. Unfortunately, and we can get into this later, back in those days, we were being totally misguided about low-fat diets and different fads, and food guide pyramids that we know now are just completely backwards and upside down. That's when I started. And I will say I started becoming fascinated with being a personal trainer right out of high school. And I did start to study exercise science. I ended up switching majors because I wanted to have business as a background, because I knew I could get certified without taking that as my whole major. And with business, you're going to utilize that in damn near anything that you do, which I have. And so, but I fell in love with it then. Now, when I got in trouble and when I went to prison, I had started modeling. And so I wasn't as into my studies then. I was into my training hardcore. It's when I got out is when that's when I said, oh, we got to figure out what we're going to do with our life here. And that's when I got knee deep into it. And it is what it's gone to today.
Yeah. So let's spend a little time on this. You've been pretty open about your discussions about being in prison, and I'm interested about how that shaped your mindset in your mission and the impact that it has on where you're at today.
I openly admit it's one of the best things that happened to me, and I say that as I laugh because I don't recommend anybody go to prison, and I certainly don't want to do it again or learn a hard lesson. Okay, but. And excuse my language, I was a real asshole, and I got what I deserved, and I needed it. If that didn't happen to me, I don't meet my wife. I'm certainly not sitting here with you right now or doing any of the things that I'm doing. I don't know what I'd be doing, but it wouldn't be this, and my life would be completely different. It was one of those things where I can take you back to the precise moment where everything changed for me, and it was on a phone call with my mom in there. And I remember verbatim. I remember exactly where I was sitting. I remember the temperature outside. I remember everything about it. And it was about a month and a half into me being there. And the phone discussion was me complaining about all of the things going on, the people around me, how terrible and miserable I was. And she just said to me, she's like, you do this every day, this woe is me and woe is me. And she said, did you ever take a minute to think about how your actions affected everybody else? The people that are so scared about you being in there, the people that put so much time and effort into you, the people that let you down, all of us. Did you ever think about that and stop thinking about yourself and the effect that your actions had on everybody else? And that's the moment I sat there, dude, and I started to have tears roll down my eyes because it hit me. Like, man, you have just look at what you've become from what you were. And how did it get this far? And how did it get so bad? And how did you get so Dylan first? Because you don't realize it sometimes when things go on in your life. And sometimes it takes somebody to sit you down and tell you, look in the mirror, something bad to happen, whatever the case is. And right then and there, man, it was like, wow, I really, really, really have to fix myself here. And I got to start working on me, and I got to figure out, how do we do that? I did that through getting closer with God. I did that through trying to think about how other people felt on my actions and before I do things. So like now when I'm assessing something, or if I'm angry about something or whatever, I'll have to sit back and go, man, I'm wondering, like, well, what about them? What are they thinking? How would I feel if I was in their shoes? And if you do that, if you take that time, it's not easy. I'm not trying to tell people that this is an easy thing, because it's not. And I still have to step back and go, man, just take a deep breath and think here for a minute. Sometimes if you put yourself in other people's shoes, it can blow your mind how your mind changes. And you go, man, if that was me, what would I say? What would I do? What would I think? It can't always be me. I mean, sometimes it has to be, but you need to really cut that back. And that's one of the things that I learned from being in there, one of the many, is that me first mentality gets you nowhere. It really doesn't. And it's not a good way to live. And when you see that and figure it out about yourself, the key is to be open that you know that you have that problem, and to make the changes that you need to become a better person.
Yeah, I can't imagine that transition was something that happened fast.
No.
What did you do to stay the course, or set a direction for yourself, or a vision for like who you wanted to become?
You know, I remember daily in there, I had the same, I mean, when you're in there, your whole life is based around routine, man. You don't even know the difference in days, aside from, you know, one day you pick up your commissary, which is your food orders. One day you might have visitors because it's the weekend, and like one night there was church, and there was a couple things that you do certainly different on different days, but 90% of the time you'd never know the difference in days. And it's hard, man. Like, it's like that movie Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray, it's like the same thing over and over and over and over. And then you become that. I'm still and I always was kind of regimented, but I'm very, very, very regimented. And that had that effect on me, but in a positive way now, because it helps me to stay on course and on track. But there's things that can happen in there to you that can linger, that can bother you for a time, that you have to let go. But it's one of those things where you have to take it as looking back. What did I gain from it? And I gained everything. I really did. Every positive thing that I've got going on right now, I mean, if I'm looking at it fairly, it tended to come as a result of what I went through. And there's some way, somehow I can kind of relate it back to it. Changes that I made, and staying on course for me was not that hard, because I was so determined with everything that happened to fix it, to make it up to everybody that I let down. I mean, I had a lot of things going, man. I had a lot of things going. I had a lot of people that spent a lot of time and a lot of money on me, counting on me, depending on me. I was modeling and acting and traveling the world and doing a lot. I really was, but I succumbed to the lifestyle, and I became what I really wasn't. And looking back on it, I'll tell my wife stories, and I'll be like, if you met me then, you wouldn't even know the same person. And I don't like to say this, but I don't want to say I despise myself, but I despise what I had become thinking about it. I could tell you some really amazing stories where people would be like, whoa, you know, and it sounds cool, but and I'll tell people these stories, and I'll say, but it's not. that leads the life I led me to nowhere. It made me quite miserable, actually, if I think about next days and knowing what I was doing in my heart wasn't right, but why couldn't I stop? And I guess I would relate it to, because I've never had like I did drugs, but I wasn't addicted. It was easy for me to stop. But I would compare it to being addicted to something or having, one of those things. I was addicted to the lifestyle, man. And sometimes when you gamble, you almost want to lose because it's the rush. Once you get addicted to gambling, it's like the rush, and you almost want to lose to have that rush. It's crazy. It's crazy, but it's the truth. And so sometimes you get addicted to the lifestyle, even though you're going to feel negative. You kind of get used to it. It's hard to explain and it's hard to understand unless you've been there. It doesn't make any sort of sense even saying it out loud, but I lived it, so I know.
Yeah, I was listening to this neuroscience scientist talk recently about gamblers and how they actually get upset when they win too much when they're playing the slots, because they know that that's going to slow it down because somebody's going to come over, and whatever that process is, like they can't hit it as much, even though they've won a lot more. Like they're upset because it interferes with the process of them gambling more and losing more. That's just wild.
Oh man, I know. And you know what? I started working for a bookie when I was 18 years old, and I gambled for a while. And trust me, thinking back, I'm like, dude, I liked it when I lost almost, even though I knew how stressed and scared I was because of the rush. It's weird, man. It's hard to explain, but I got away from all of that, Yeah.
So does this giving back piece, or this looking at, the other perspective, does that play a role into what appears to be your mission of like calling out, BS in the industry, or just a lot of the things that we see as, being wrong from a health standpoint, or any number of things you could call, I guess, in the fitness realm? There's a lot.
So this is one of those things I've just kind of figured out, really. I've been convincing myself for, I don't know, what are we in 2025? So almost 15 years, that me talking about steroids and SARMs and peptides and things that I started talking about when no one was talking about them. I've been telling myself, oh, you're doing such good, because even though you're educating people on steroids, you're helping them how to use them safe. And even though I try to discourage it, you're still, and in reality, looking at it, I'm like, no, one, that's not what God created you to do. And two, no, you're really not. You're feeding the fire. And I got to the point where I've sat here and tried probably too hard to figure out what exactly it's in faith. It's discerning what God's will is for you. And I've been trying so hard and pushing too hard to figure that out. And I'll tell you a quick story on how I figured this out. I was speaking at the Mr. Olympia last year, which was a culmination of all my work, to get the opportunity as an influencer, which I don't like being called, but that's basically what I'm deemed, to get on stage and speak with doctors and practitioners of the best of the best of the best all over the world, and to be put up there with them. That told me, okay, what you're doing, you're onto something here, right? And then to get up there and get the respect that I got, and to hold my own with them, and to the feedback I got after, that's when I realized I'm doing this all wrong, man. I've got it. I just don't have the MD after my name, but I have it, And I'll be honest with you, I faked a lot of it for several years. I acted like I knew more than I did. I took information from people and I learned it, but it wasn't like enough on my own. I faked a lot of it. I didn't teach people bad things. I didn't give out bad information, but I wasn't as a fraction of as actual true knowledgeable as I am right now. Right. So all of that happened. And I got home and I have all this momentum, right? I'm going to set all this stuff. I'm going to do all of this. Let's go. And I got COVID like right when I got home, man. And I'm like, why on earth would this happen right now? Like when I've got all of this going, and in my head, it's like, I'm just going to lose all the momentum because I'm going to be down for a week or 2 weeks or whatever the heck it is. And I'm finally in my head, I sat there and I said, man, this had to have happened for a reason. God doesn't go put you in these positions to then just take from you and like play these cruel games with you. That's not how it works. This is just another test, or it's a reason that you need to take a break and to reassess. So when I was there, I got to speak at the Mr. Olympia, like I said, but then on top of that, I was approached by the person that gave me the opportunity to speak, and he said, do you want to, I want to introduce you to somebody, and her name was Monica Brandt. She's a former Miss Olympia. And we got to talking, and she had a podcast she stopped doing. Anyway, long story short, she says, do you want to be a co-host for me? We can get a booth at the Mr. Olympia, and I've got a sponsor. I said, yeah, let's do it. You know, I'm not a co-host guy, but let's do it. And one of her sponsor was Stem Regen, who works with stem cells, supplement that releases stem cell production. Anyway, they're in the biohacking industry.
Yep.
And that is how I fell into the biohacking industry. When I got home and I got sick, instead of pouting and moping like I had done several previous times when I got COVID, it dawned on me, I'm in the wrong space. This whole time I built this whole following, I did all of this in the wrong space. And that was the opportunity, and I seized it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to just approach every big name in this industry. I'm going to dig in. I'm going to study. I'm going to learn all of this. And that's all I've done ever since. And I've built everything from that moment on. I have a top-rated podcast. I've interviewed some of the biggest and best names, and I haven't even scratched the surface yet, man. And because you know why that it's gone the way it has? Because this is what I was supposed to do. But the timing wasn't right because I still was a little selfish. I still was a little territorial with everything. I wasn't open to work with people. I wasn't willing to do podcast collaborations. I was still a jerk, even through everything that I've been through. And now I've found what I'm supposed to do. I realize what I'm supposed to do. I see the people that get brought into my life. I see the kind of people that are and the reasoning behind it. And I'm listening instead of listening to my, so you have to try to listen to the spirit, not yourself. And in deciphering your mind versus the spirit, it's really hard, man, because your mind will always try to win. And I'm figuring that out, and I'm listening, and I just feel like I'm doing what I'm told at this point. And I think that that's what's brought a lot of the success in what I do. And I'm just really thankful and just very, very, very gracious. And that's why I try to stay as humble as I can, and try to not be greedy and do everything I can for people that is really going to help them enhance their quality of life.
Let's talk about maximizing your strength and resilience. When chasing my 1,000-pound squat, I made my own supplements out of necessity to help push my body to its physical limits. So I founded Build Fast Formula because I needed supplements that actually worked every time I trained. All our formulas are backed by peer-reviewed research and third-party informed sport tested for quality and safety. Listeners can get 10% off by using code RESILIENCE at buildfastformula.com. That's code RESILIENCE for 10% off everything at buildfastformula.com. Find your formula and feel your physicality today.
Yeah. Well, I'm hearing a whole lot of just raw honesty over the course of this, and I appreciate that. That's really, really interesting hearing the story from that perspective. And yeah, the biohacking space is kind of interesting because it's both performance, which is, maybe where you were with steroids, SARMs, so on, but it's literally working different pathways that's actually creating health, creating cellular health at the same time of this performance optimization. And I really, love the space for that reason as well. But I see a lot of, I guess, marketed biohacking out there. What's your definition of biohacking? Tell me what that is.
Yeah, and I've made videos on this too when I got into it, because I always tell people it's a very polarizing term, because the first time I saw it, I was like,
I don't like it. I don't like actually being I hate it, but it's just it's reality, right?
I didn't like it at first, and I appreciate it now. I'll tell you why. Because I feel like once you realize what all it actually truly is, then you're like, okay, all right, this makes a lot more sense now. I compare it to Bitcoin. When Bitcoin came out, people made it so difficult. And I did too, because everybody else did. And I was like, oh, I can't do this. This is too much. I don't want to look. And then I sat down one day and I said, you know what? Why are all these people doing this? How are they all doing this? Is this really that difficult? Because I'm kind of looking around and I'll go, well, man. So I sat down and I read like 15 minutes and I was like, man, this is awesome. Let me get involved in this, right? It's simple. There's a couple little things in there that are a little difficult. And so it's just like with biohacking. You can get really deep into biohacking and get very sciencey. And there's a lot of, you'll see like a lot of events I go to and a lot of conventions, and there's like this really expensive equipment there. So people get really scared and discouraged and think that's all biohacking is. Man, biohacking is very simple. It's just finding alternative ways to take care of yourself. And some of those are the most basic of the basic of the basics. Getting up and getting outside in the morning and walking early in the morning to get sunlight, to go get, be one around the earth and things like that. I can tell you firsthand, just that one thing alone, how big of a difference that's made for me in my life. It's looking at preventing instead of treating things that we should be doing anyway. It's focused on diet. I mean, it's just like being a nutritionist, but looking at the more naturopathic way of things where you're not just dependent upon people giving you all of these prescriptions and garbage and not looking into the intricate details of the blood panels that we need to get, of the things that we need to be looking at, micronutrients. I just got this here. I just came. This is like a parasite kit that I just got in the mail to check for parasites, things that the doctors don't check for. Learning about different methodologies and different ways to take care of yourself. It's this broad spectrum of different views that aren't just going to the doctor and a statin is the answer for everything, or a antidepressant and all of this. And it's not being accepting of these categories of things that don't even exist for some people. Just because you're stressed doesn't mean you have a mental health issue. Like things like this, it's like looking at things in an alternative way. Peptides are considered biohacking because it's an alternative method of healing, because peptides aren't like just performance enhancements or things for bodybuilders. Like when I found them, that's all that they were. There was like 7 or 8 of them. I found them in 2011. Nobody even knew what the hell they were. It was an underground market of nothing. Now that you see that it can treat everything and do everything, that's biohacking, man. Getting on TRT is really biohacking if you're doing it right and taking care of yourself and understanding how to. You can put so many things into that category. It's just a broad spectrum of beauty, in my view, if it's done right. There's bad actors in everything we do. There's got people. I've been in the supplement industry for so long, and there's so many shady people in there. So there is, of course, in biohacking. There isn't jewelry. There isn't in anything that we do, right? But there's a lot of damn good people that are really doing innovative things and that really specialize into things. Like you and I talked before about Timeline, which is my big partner, because I only take on very few partners. You won't see me out there. You'll see a lot of influencers that have like 75 affiliate codes and they're promoting something different every day. If you watch me, I've got very few. And it's because I have to really, really believe in it. But somebody like them that focuses on cellular health, mitochondria health, like things that really, really, really focus on how are we stopping diseases? How are we able to live longer? I'm not talking about the crazy stuff like Brian Johnson trying to live to 150 or 200 or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about really living longer, preventing disease, understanding how diseases actually start, looking at gut health, but like things like that people don't talk about. That's biohacking, man. And it doesn't have to be this crazy, difficult, or polarizing word.
Yeah, I want to get into Timeline here in a little bit. They make that urolithin A, right?
Yeah, it's Mitopure, which is the purest form of urolithin A.
Yeah. I'm huge fan of urolithin A, and yeah, but some of the pieces that you're talking about here. When we talk about bad actors, or maybe even not even bad actors, in my opinion, it's just, maybe a lack of education or, dollar signs behind things. And I think, anybody could get accused of the same thing. Like I've produced a lot of content recently around peptides. And it's like, there's a lot of people, it's like, I'm hurt. I'd shove some, I got to put some TB into whatever it is that hurts. And well, what hurts? Oh, well, my shoulder. Yeah, but what's wrong? My shoulder, it hurts. So I'm going to stick it's the BPC. It's going to fix it. Right.
Right.
And my point being, it's like, there's a lot of, we'll call TRT mills or, peptide, everybody's pushing this stuff out there like it is the ultimate answer. And in my opinion, we're just missing some fundamental things that need to be done first. Like, those things are not going to do anything if you're not exercising, if you're not eating right, if you're not there's just, am I off base here? But it seems like, like as somebody myself that promotes peptides, peptides, I did a video recently, aren't going to do jack shit for you if you don't take care of the fundamentals of your cellular health first. Right. And yeah, urolithin L is going to help with that. But what are the other things? Right.
Yes.
But do you have any thoughts on that?
So I tell everybody the same thing that comes to me that wants to lose weight, that wants to get on TRT, that wants to run supplements even, or stacks of things, or whatever the case may be. Professional athletes that want steroid coaching, which I tend to stay away from now. I really don't want any part of it. I have some big name clients that I will still help if I have to, but I really don't want anything to do with it. But anyway, I tell them all the same thing. There's two things that we have to start with, or none of this is going to work. Well, really three. Number one, you have to be mentally there. If you're mentally off, I don't care what it is you're doing. Like, you've got a bunch of problems going on and you're just not mentally strong. You're too stressed. Whatever we do is not going to work. Number two, you got to be, you need to be in your hormones need to be correct, right? So if you're not optimized hormonally, then no matter what we do, we're spinning our wheels, And three, you need your diet, you need to have metabolic flexibility, right? So if your diet's really bad, like, I just had somebody come to me the other day and I said, lay me out your diet. And the person ate twice a day, nothing. And it was no fiber, no protein, no fats, no nothing. And I told him, I said, look, we're starting from scratch here because I can't do anything else with you right now. They wanted peptide coach, they wanted this and that. And I said, no. If anybody offered that to you, they're taking your money. We have to fix, this is a problem and this can't be fixed overnight. So this is a step-by-step thing, right? You have to be all in line. Now, somebody like yourself, educated on peptides, talks about peptides. Just because you're talking about peptides or educated on peptides doesn't mean you're trying to sell something. Look, anything that we do, somebody's selling something. The person that throws those bones at people, it's like, well, who do you work for? Because if you work for a grocery store, well, they're selling something, aren't they? So are they out for everybody? If you're selling cell phones, if you're working for a credit card company, it doesn't matter. Every single thing that you work for, somebody's selling something. Okay, so I hate that. Yes, it's good to be aware. Yes, you have to be on guard. Yes, you need to know. But a lot of people like you, like me, like a lot of other people, they put out a lot of free content. And a lot of that content, if you went to buy it, would cost a damn lot of money. So, of course, everybody's got to make a living. I hate that, man. I really, really get fired up and angry about that, as you can see, because those people that throw those stones at people, it's like, do you work free? Can you work for free? No. Now, there are people that charge way too much for things and do that. Yeah, I agree. So just stay away from them. Yeah. But don't throw that at everybody, especially the people that do so much good for people, for free.
No. I'm thinking of, those, you can see those, TRT clinics advertising on Facebook. Yeah. And, it's just they're not even reviewing people's blood work or doing you want a prescription, you got a prescription, right? And they're not looking at the blood work and seeing what you just mentioned, which you can see in someone's blood work, the metabolic flexibility, to get some science here. This is the ability at a cellular level to switch between, energy processing through glycolation versus oxidative phosphorylation. One necessarily isn't better than the other. Obviously, oxidative phosphorylation, burns, 32, 36 ATP, and, glycolation's for, right? So,
Yep.
we're going to burn more calories if we're in oxidative phosphorylation, but the ability for the cells to actually switch between one or the other, because when you get stuck in one of those and you can't switch out, like that is chronic disease starts happening. That's diabetes, it's cancer, it's like all these sorts of things. And if those mechanisms are stuck, it'll actually show. It's pretty easy for anybody that's experienced with blood work to see that when they're looking at, lipid panels, A1C, like all the, looking at inflammation markers, you can kind of see these things, right? That's what I'm saying is like, doing the work at taking care of those things first versus these folks that are like, oh no, just buy some peptides, it's going to fix you, or here's your prescription for TRT, come back and here's a whole bunch of anastrozole, which by the way is not necessarily good. Like, we'll get into that topic. I'm like, yeah, you want to do some of the worst stuff that you can for you, like it's a lot of these other ancillary medications that you may not even need a lot of times if somebody's actually looking at your blood work. So that's what I'm differentiating is, that aspect of it.
Yes. So, that's one of the reasons I'm going to be starting my own, it's an online vitality clinic. I've got some really, really amazing partners, former NFL player, and his wife, and another partner that's been in the industry forever, and we're trying to make a difference in this. I started learning about these anti-aging clinics when I was really getting into everything with steroids in baseball, right? So that's when they started to become a thing in Florida. They were all over the place, people
everywhere down there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's where they started. And so now being in the industry that I am and being so heavily involved in, talking to so many different people, different doctors and everything, and people that then come to me, because people come to me to just fix them, right? That's where a lot of people come to me, just to fix me, because I've gotten so screwed up by so many other people. And here's what I see that is so disturbing. And we're going to talk about a couple things here, because you brought it up with the anastrozole and it made me laugh. We'll talk about that in a second. So I see people going to these clinics because in their head, they think that TRT is going to make them some mass monster, or it's going to be the savior, end all, be all. And they're going in there getting blood work done with 500-600 testosterone scores. And then, they're in their later 40s and 50s. Dude, that's a damn good score at that age naturally, right?
Yep.
And they're just putting on TRT. And that's a bad thing to be doing that to somebody that doesn't need it. A lot of these people don't understand that once you're on it and you start doing that, you suppress your testosterone and you do it for too long, and especially at an older age, even for a short amount of time, you're going to be on that forever. And that, I'm a big proponent of it if you need it, right? But beyond the fact of putting on people on it that don't need it, it's then putting them on way too much.
Yeah.
If you and I are taking TRT, and this is just a breakdown for people, unless you have like a severely hypogonadal condition, you can assume, and it's more on the high side here, 5 to 7 times your dose is what your total testosterone number is going to get. So if you and me are dosing 100 milligrams a week, chances are, unless we'll really, really, really have an issue, we're going to be probably in that 700 range, give or take, right? We'll say 600 to 700. That's a very strong number. Okay. I see a lot of these people telling me they're on 250, 300 milligrams a week. I mean, that can be putting you up in the 2000 range or high, close to it. And it's like, man, that's not healthy to be walking around that high that long. That's just being on cycle.
Yeah.
So not only is there negligence in giving it to people that don't need it, there's negligence in the dosing and sometimes the compounding pharmacies, if they're not reputable, because that there's a bunch of shady places doing that. You don't even know the amount you're actually getting. It might say 200 milligrams on it, but there's probably 300 to 400 in every, milliliter, cc, whatever you want to say, Yeah. And then on top of that, it's, we got to get you your HCG and your anastrozole, which is a bunch of BS that you don't need. And it's just this game of trying to put you on everything they can. Now they're putting people on a million different peptides. I see some of these places that are writing scripts for Anavar, for Deca. I don't even know how. I don't get into the logistics or the law of it, but they're doing that. And it's like, Seriously, you're putting people on DECA and Anavar like it's okay, and treating DECA like TRT year round just because it's a low dose, and and then not discussing other aspects of problems with that, and it's spiraled out of control, and so then people wonder why are they cracking down and stopping the good places from doing these things. Well, that's why. That's why they have to regulate it, right? And they can't let people go around doing all this craziness. So,
yeah, I can't believe the doses of anastrozole that they throw people on without like any need for it. Like, did you try to see where it was at with nothing or a small dose, and that's cranked up? Or did you have any discussions around the person's lifestyle, health, food habits? Because honestly, I work with a lot of people, taking it's. To avoid TRT, because, you can do some herbal interventions that can raise somebody's testosterone levels by 200-300 points. If you're looking at what's happening with LH, FSH, SHBG, the different mechanisms, the different supplements that can hit those pathways, and boom, you bring somebody up there, make sure that they're getting sleep, make sure that they're training. Like, it doesn't have to be, and that's where I said it seems like some of these people are like, this is the answer, right? So it's great to see you going in with some partners and trying to do something the right way. I've partnered with Merrick through the years because they've got some similar approaches, and like I said, it's just So where can people find that your clinic at?
So it's called Ascend Vitality. It's going to be done all online. We're going to set up like a community too. So there'll be an online community as part of it, and I'll be in there. And one of the partners, like I said, that was a former NFL player, he'll be in there helping people with like fitness protocols and different things. So it's not just going to be this place where you go get a prescription. I mean, we're going to be doing a lot of different things to help people, to provide them outlets and resources. And I'm privy because I work with some of the best doctors, all around that are going to help out and be a part of that too. So, I'm just trying to do something really different and something that I'm well versed on and very passionate about and know about. And I see all of the problems with. Look, we all can't save the world, but we certainly can attempt to make a difference, right? And everybody that takes the time to make a difference, if it accumulates and accumulates and accumulates, man, there's a lot of damn good going on. So I just want to be a part of doing good in a variety of ways. And this opportunity got presented to me, and I said, hell yeah, count me in. I love the message. I love the idea. And I know the product. I know the treatment. I know it. I live it. So let's do it,
Awesome. So, we just talked about metabolic flexibility, and I gave a definition of what that was: the ability to switch between the glycylation and oxidative phosphorylation. This is at a cellular level, and so when we're talking about cellular medicine, mitochondrial function is super important. Like, how are we improving that electron transport chain? Like, how? So you touched on urolithin A or timeline earlier in the Mitopure product, but as a whole, what are your foundational steps for improving mitochondrial function?
Well, I mean, look, this and I know this. There's a lot of things that we're told are inevitable as we age, right? I mean, testosterone dropping, HGH dropping, mitochondrial health dropping. And I guess for me, and I'm wondering, and I'm going to ask you back, I find that yes, that's true, but do we have to accept that? I mean, in my view, no, we don't have to accept it. So we take the steps to treat it. And that's like with Mitopure, we're working on stimulating mitophagy. And so we can try to basically, in simple terms, fix mitochondrial health, right? And we can get into the science behind it. So for you, and I'll answer, things that I look at, but do you feel the same way that I do, that you don't have to accept that there's ways to go about fixing it? And I would say it starts first and foremost with lifestyle. So trying to live as low stress as you can, fixing your diet and getting the proper sleep. But do you feel the same way that I do in terms of, we don't have to accept that there's a lot of ways that we can fix things?
Absolutely. Like, I am closing on 50 and I look better. I feel better, and I'm in better health than I was when I was in my 30s. Like, and it's like, tell me you can't look at different people, at the 40, 50, 60 years old and see like a 20-year difference in the same age. When you look at them, they look like, somebody that's the same age at 60 as someone else, and they look 20 years older or 20 years younger. Same at 40s and 50s. That's where you start seeing the impact of the lifestyle and the degradation, I think, in cellular function. And yeah, there's like ways, to make sure. You mentioned one, like getting sunlight early in the morning, like our photons feed our mitochondria. The urolithin A is a pathway to mitophagy. Well, there's a three-legged stool for, mitochondrial health, that those cellular dynamics involve mitophagy, cellular fusion, and cellular fission processes. Those are the repair mechanisms for mitochondria, right?
Yes.
Clearing off those dead ones, taking the broken bits and pieces of two different mitochondria, fusing them together to make one larger whole one. As you're doing that, like the cool thing is, and this is the performance side of it, is like you're ramping up the demand for more mitochondria. So it starts creating new growth of the mitochondria. And, you're just ramping them up, burning energy. So you get leaner, body composition gets better. Like, yeah. And I've seen it. Like anybody that follows me can look at me 10 years ago, like just scroll through social media or my YouTube. Like I've been doing this since 2007. It's there. You can see it.
Absolutely.
I get all these comments. They're like, you're aging backwards. You're aging backwards. I'm like, I'll take that. Like literally, like is that the best thing to see in your freaking like, like you're looking so great. You're aging backwards. Like,
I love hearing that, man. I get that once in a while. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I do. And I go back and look at videos of things I did 5-6 years ago. And I'm like, man, you look like shit back then. You look way better now. But I think that's a testament to learning more things that we have available to us, making diet changes, making lifestyle changes, and really putting that first. And so I think so when you start to have mitochondrial dysfunction, you need to look for telltale signs. The problem is that you and I both know that a lot of problems can have similar issues, and it's so differentiating. But I would say being chronically tired could probably be something. When I say neurological, I'm talking like either brain fog or memory hazy type of thing. A lot of people feel a little weak, and of course lack of energy, right? So we're talking about them being the powerhouses of our cells and giving us that energy. But when you start to have cognitive issues, and especially when you're younger, there's a good chance you have a mitochondrial issue. Sometimes people have like gastrointestinal issues. So when you start to feel that decline, especially mentally, I would say look at it. But look, toxins can affect mitochondrial function. That heavy metals, chemicals, things that I was talking about earlier that people don't take the time to go and check all of those micronutrients, all of these toxins. What was I just saying? The parasites that I was talking about, man, there's a lot of things out there that people don't test, right? That can cause problems. Focus on your diet, get that right. Focus on your stress levels, get your sleep right. Take the right supplements, eat the right foods, balanced diets. I'm really, really big, and I keep mentioning this, on healthy fats. And a lot of times intermittent fasting can help. I don't necessarily practice intermittent fasting, but I do go like a very long period without eating. It's just the amount of cardio I do and the training. It makes it pretty damn hard when you're doing 90 minutes of cardio a day to fast for 24 hours. But I do increments of 12 sometimes, or the best of my ability. But that can be helpful too. And then of course, like we were talking, supplements like urolithin A might appear really, really helpful. But you seem to be very well versed on cellular health. So and I know basically all diseases, they either start in the cells or your gut, right? And so fixing those two areas are going to be the key to preventing diseases long term. Cellular membrane and mitochondria, those need to be protected and addressed and looked at. And then obviously the gut. And that's thankfully that's becoming more prevalently talked about now than it ever has been. And a lot of people, at least on the biohacking or naturopathic side, are far more accepting and understanding of the fact that, wow, leaky gut, that's a big contributor to so many things. And you know this, inflammation, when you're inflamed, that's the thing you got to be looking at. So high sensitivity C-reactive protein is a marker to be very aware of and look at. And everybody's inflamed somehow, but it's getting that, as low as we can and keeping it as low as we can that helps mitigate disease, viruses, mitochondrial, issues, everything like that.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like some of the stuff we all know, like we know these things, right? Mm-hmm. But once you start understanding like like what's happening at a cellular level, you realize just how important it is. And some of the stuff that maybe sounded woo-woo to you, like, red light therapy, it's great. Huberman takes a lot of hits, but I think he's done more than anyone in raising the awareness around getting morning and evening sunlight. Like, so, like that's a simple fact. And, pulsed electromagnetic frequency, like all these things just having an impact on it. And they may seem a little woo-woo at first, but then it's like, once you start understanding it, it's just really, really cool. And you mentioned the gut. I think one of the things that people don't think about with the gut is not just, the permeability of that gut barrier or, what's happening there, but the fact that if we heal that, we're also impacting neurologically because the vagal nerve is impacted by the gut, which is sending signals to the brain. So it's a whole second set of pathway. If we've got gut issues, I always have to start there first because it's affecting two different, systems, right?
Right.
Which is, it's like if you want to have, you're talking about de-stressing, sleep, these other factors. Well, those are going to be directly affected by poor issues with the gut because of the impact of the vagal nerve with the brain, which is then cascading a whole nother set of neural signals through the body.
Yes, 100%. I can't stress enough the need to focus on these avenues and areas when you're looking at your overall health. And when you go to the doctor, they only really look at a very, very, very basic panel, right? They look at your whole blood count and they look at your complete metabolic profile, which is not complete at all. And so you have to be diligent yourself because a lot of these doctors, you'll ask for these tests and they're like, well, why do you want that? And it's like, well, it's none of your fucking business, man. What do you mean? Why do I want that? Because I want to know what's going on, So the good thing is there's all these different places and labs. You can go order your own and do your own and pay for it right out of pocket. Sometimes your insurance will cover it if you got really good insurance. I send people coupons or to places when I have them or when I know them. I don't work with any of those places, but I know that they've done me great over the years. And so, a lot of people come to me to just study their blood panels and tell them what to get, what to order. And it's troubling to me, man. And it's, what else is troubling to me? When you go to a doctor and you're like this close to being on the edge of off or on, and they'll tell you, oh, you're in normal range. And then all of these labs have different ranges and some of them are so wide and all over the place. It's like, dude, you're not in range. Like, what are you talking about?
And what's your optimal range?
Well, and that's just it. They're all different, right? I mean, for testosterone levels, I like to see people in like the 600 to 700 range generally. To me, that's pretty damn solid. Some people feel fine. It's crazy because some people feel fine at 300 or 400, but you need to look at not just that total number, but you need to look at the free testosterone number. And a lot of people miss that and don't see it. And then it's like, if these numbers are off, well, we got to look at the factors of why could they possibly be off. So let's go dig and try to find the problem, not just put everybody on TRT, because perhaps we could fix an issue that's there and not even need the TRT, right? So you mentioned SHBG earlier. Well, if your SHBG is high, you need to get it lower to free up bound testosterone. Maybe those numbers go right back up. I mean, that's just a small example, right? There's all kinds of mitigating factors that if you just look at and you dig into, well, maybe you don't need any treatment,
Tex, if you want to build more physical resilience in your life, you need to start with a firm foundation. That's why I only wear barefoot shoes. Their wide toe box, zero drop heel, and flexible frames allow me to comfortably strengthen my foot every day while promoting optimal body mechanics, postural alignment, and movement. Listeners can get 10% off by using the code RESILIENCE at barefoot.store. That's BEAR foot.store for 10% off with code RESILIENCE. Start improving how you move today with barefoot shoes.
What are some of the most overlooked blood markers that you see not getting done?
Number one, to me, that is the most important is on the cholesterol side of things. When you're looking at cholesterol panels and they're only testing your LDL, your HDL, and your total cholesterol and maybe triglycerides, and then the lack of understanding of LDL and HDL and what they actually do, and the non-viewing of Lp(a), of ApoB, and particle sizes. To me, never testing those is one of the biggest injustices and bad practices that I've ever seen. And this total blatant disregard of testing those and looking into those type of markers that are really going to tell me if you are a potential, heart patient or have issues going on. You going in there with what they deem as a normal, and they want to crush your LDL at the same time, by the way, which can be very detrimental. Or looking for you to be just a little bit out of their range so they can prescribe you a statin, which you don't need at all, which is a bunch of shit. Excuse me. I'm sorry if you can't cuss on your show. But that's one of the ones that I just don't understand. And then, they don't have, like I mentioned earlier, on your regular panels, they don't test for high sensitivity C-reactive protein. They don't test for like magnesium, for example. Now, some people say that test doesn't matter, but I do like to see electrolyte numbers, and I get it. I understand that. They don't test for ferritin. They don't always test for iron stores. There's a slew of things they don't test for. They don't test for any heavy metals or toxins or anything like that. That stuff is important, man. I mean, you could have so many issues going on and they could go, well, we can't figure it out because we gave you a cancer test and we're not seeing anything for that, because you got an elevated liver value, and we gave you a fibroscan, so everything looks good. Well, dude, maybe I got some heavy metals, or maybe I got a parasite, or maybe I got something else going on. They don't even ask you anything like that or test for it. You have to really go do it yourself, unfortunately, unless you go to a naturopathic or, like I just got out of class to be a cellular health coach, and we learned about, and I'm in an integrative health practitioner course right now, and they teach you how to do your own practice and test for all these things and what to look for. And, but heavy metal testing and contaminants and things like that, man, that's a big deal. That can cause you a million problems. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, mercury testing, aluminum testing. I mean, I can go down a whole list of things that could potentially be the big problem that you're having. Same with the parasites, man. Some people have so many parasites in their body and have no clue. And if you just go fix that and treat that, you'd be just amazed at the difference.
Yeah.
So...
Well, I'm assuming with Ascend that you're going to be doing a deep dive into this stuff, right?
Absolutely, man. I'm going to be doing everything I can to educate people, recommend them the tests, put them on the right path and optimizing health. And, I have the knowledge, so to not share the knowledge or to not work at it would be a disservice and a waste of talent. And that's not good, man. You never want to do that with God-given abilities and talents. Now, in fairness, sometimes it takes people a little while to figure out what they have, and that's understandable. But once you do, that's when it's the problem if you don't do, right?
Yeah. Well, we're getting close to an hour in, and I've got one topic I want to hear your take on, but I'm a little hesitant to jump into it because I think we may have some difference of opinions. But I know that you've been a proponent of SARMs. Mm-hmm. Educate me on SARMs, because I'd say I'm not a fan of myself. So where am I off?
First, you can always say whatever you want to me, because I'm not one of those people where I get offended or hurt if we disagree. I'll just tell you what I think and go back and forth, and you can always say whatever the hell you want. I don't have those kind of feelings, just so you know. It's always brother to brother talk with me, man. So, two, yes, for many, many years I was a proponent of SARMs, many years, and I have soured over the past year to year and a half, I would say. I've seen far too many bad blood markers. I've seen different SARMs be created and come out that I just don't agree with. They're basically like using steroids. And I'm seeing more and more problems with use. And I don't know if it's down to contaminants. I don't know if it's that we're seeing things that we didn't see before. People were lying before. People were being misleading before. I don't know, because I had coached people and seen blood panels, and they just seem to progressively be getting worse. And so I pretty much steer clear of them. I don't send people like that way. I really have fallen in love with peptides and nootropics, and a lot of that's due to the safety level, and a lot of it is my better understanding as I've gotten older, the lack of need for all of this BS, for these steroids, for these performance enhancers that you just don't really need. And even when you're competing, is it really worth it? And I always ask people, is it really worth what you get out of it? If you go get a pro card, it's like, how much money are you really going to make? And let's just say you do make several millions of dollars. Is those several million of dollars worth it if you're going to ruin your quality of life and you're going to live a shorter life and be miserable as you get older? Is it worth it? I would say no. So with the SARMs, it's like one of the points that people used to bring up is they're not studied long enough. And I would be like, oh, BS. We've got 10, 15 years of studies, but it's really not long-term enough. And, getting more and more and more and more consistent reports of problems and seeing more issues on blood panels, it's opened my eyes to going, okay, I don't want any involvement with anybody doing it anymore, and I don't want to recommend it anymore because I don't trust it. And if I can't trust it, I'm certainly not going to be a proponent of it, and I'm certainly not going to help other companies market it or tell people maybe go ahead and give it a try or use it. I'm far more comfortable with peptides, knowing how they're derived, talking with so many doctors that aren't underground, sellers. You don't see any of these doctors and people, aside from perhaps MK677 being prescribed, which I've seen, any other SARMs, and that's not even a SARM anyway.
Yeah, I say MK677 doesn't really fall into that class per se. Yeah,
it's been sold and marketed as it, but it's really not. It's a secretagogue, so it's really not even a SARM in itself.
No.
So really, which one could we say is okay? Even on the more mild side, I'm seeing more issues with like a MK2866 or a S4, and I see so many problems that I guess I maybe overlooked because I was so involved in like coaching people on steroids, and because these were less than steroids, but there's still problems, man. Liver problems, people with headaches, people seeing more suppression. I've even seen, even though these don't convert to estrogen, people reporting gynecomastia. It's not good. You don't see any of that with peptides. What's the worst that you see with like heavier peptides, for instance? With some GLP-1s, yeah, we see some side effects from misuse, but I've seen maybe some prolactin on some of the GHRPs, maybe some prolactin issues, maybe some,
mostly it's histamine issues. Yeah.
You're not seeing suppressed testosterone, elevated livers, messed up kidneys. You're not seeing that. Why?
Well, they're signalers. Like that's
We don't want that. We don't need that in our lives. So yeah, I could see why you'd think we'd be thinking differently on it, and I probably surprised the hell of a lot of people coming out and saying that. But dude, hey, you in life, you have to pivot when you know you're wrong.
It's I appreciate that being honesty and just diving into that. So well, I'm glad to hear that too, because I guess not from it reinforces, but I didn't really want to be promoting something on the podcast that I'm not a fan of, but I was really interested in hearing your take on it just because I know where your position has been. So, I think it's great to be able to, as information comes in, as knowledge grows, to be able to, not stand behind something because you said it in the past. And that's an unfortunate thing sometimes I think that we see in this industry is people get very, very dogmatic because they define themselves as, well, I'm the SARM guy, or I'm the I'm the whatever muscle part person or certain exercise. And it's like, Yeah, maybe you should not be defining yourself in that fashion.
No, I'm not I've got to stand on it forever guy. I'm a guy that goes, well, I messed up, so I'd better talk about why.
Yeah, but I the thing you said there that was interesting is like I was in it when I was dealing with steroid guys, and it's better than it's less harsh than steroids too. And I'm like, that clicks and that rings really true.
Mm-hmm. It does, and it is a fact, but it's like you're still getting messed up, and it's just one of those things you convince yourself, right? We all do it. You convince yourself, even though when you know certain things that, but, and it's like, sometimes I'd sit there and go, why are so many people saying this? And am I right or wrong? Oh no, you're right. You're right. You're the SARMs guy. Just like you said, I don't want to be the SARMs guy. I want to be the honest guy. I want to be the credible guy. Okay. And I'm not the perfect guy. I'm not the always right guy. But I want to be the credible guy, the guy that you can count on, and the guy that can take accountability, that can admit mistakes. You know how politicians are never wrong and they're actually always wrong? I want to be the polar opposite of that. I want to be the guy that can say, one, if I don't have the answer, I know somebody that does, and I'll go get it for you. And two, if I made a mistake, here's what I was wrong, how I was wrong, and, here's what I found, and discuss the circumstances upon why something changed, as opposed to trying to hide it, skate by it, or act like you're so perfect. That's not reality, dude. That's why I talk about everything that I've went through before, because it humanizes you and it shows everybody else that you're a real person. And, I'm a you get what you get guy. If you like it, I love that, but I'm not going to change or conform and be something I'm not. So,
yeah,
that's it.
Well, I appreciate it. Is there anything we've covered a broad scope, and might have to have another discussion, maybe a shorter one at some point, just like doing here's a science one, here's some peptides, here's the mechanisms, like these are the things that we love. Sure. I would have loved to do it on this one, but we kind of covered a lot of related ground, and I didn't want to get off discussion of some of the conversation that we had. But anything else that you would like to share with the audience before we wrap this one up?
No, I love coming on shows like this. I love the discussions. I love talking about the topics that we talked about. I love to talk about like the sciencey stuff, the peptide stuff and everything, but I do like to show other avenues of what I do or what I talk about. And I like to not just make an impact on people with just health and fitness, which is a huge thing, but I like to make a life impact on people, discussing perseverance, discussing accountability, and showing people what I think, or at least what I feel like is the road or pathway to becoming a better person. You can always become a better person. And I think looking into ways to do that, looking at yourself, being accountable, looking in the mirror and saying, okay, we got to fix this. It's fine. It's okay. We have to do it every day, and I like talking about that stuff. And I like hopefully being like a beacon of light for people, or an inspiration or a guidance, or, hey, I don't want to be like this guy, so I learned that from him, whatever. I just like to help and contribute to that. And I like a platform to do that. So I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Been good having you on.
Absolutely. And we can definitely do it again. So you just let me know.
All right.